This is Jeff Leifer with Crator, and you're listening to The Ritual with Lady Death on Metal Messiah Radio.
Hello everybody, this is Lady Death. You're listening to The Ritual on Metal Messiah Radio. Today, the guitarist of the American death metal band Crator, Jeff Leifer, is joining us to talk about the band, their first full-length album, and more. First of all, let me thank you for giving us a bit of your time, Jeff, and welcome to my show.
Thanks, no problem.
Alright, so Crator is a new death metal band featuring both Jason Kaiser and John Longstreth of Origin, Colin Marston of Gorguts, and you, Jeff, of Tentacles. The band was formed back in 2012 in New York. How and why did you form this band, since each one of you guys has his own main project or band?
Well, at least in the community, the New York community, it's very small, so everybody really knows everybody. Me and John started hanging out back in, 2009 maybe?
Yeah.
We were working together at a restaurant, and we just started jamming, and a couple songs came out. We never actually thought this was going to be a real project, but after a few years, we had a bunch of songs, and we contacted Jason Kaiser. He was an old friend of ours who lived locally, and then we hooked up with Colin Marston after John did the Gorguts tour, and it seemed to be a perfect fit for him to do session bass and record our album. So it just all really fell into place.
Awesome. So, who came up with the name of the band and even the logo? It is really interesting seeing all these geometrical shapes in it.
Yeah, well, we came up with a number of different names. Crator kind of stuck, but we had a bunch of different spellings of it.
Yeah.
We did it with a K at first, but then it looked too much like Creator, and then so we finally came up with the C and then the O to make it a little bit different.
Yeah.
I came up with the logo. It looks like a lot more work than it was.
Yes.
It's just a few layers in Photoshop. It took me, a few days to come up with it, but I was really happy with it.
Yeah, it is really nice. So, you released a single last year, The Echo That Conquers Voice. You think that single shaped definitely the style of your music?
Well, that song was the third song we ever wrote. And that was probably, back in the late, 2009, 2010.
Yes.
So it was pretty indicative of our early stuff, but pretty complex. These songs were written over probably about 7 or 8 years, so there's definitely a progression, and it'd be interesting to see if somebody could pick out when we wrote which songs.
Okay. So recently you released your first full-length album, The Ones Who Create, The Ones Who Destroy, independently. So how can you describe the album for the ones who didn't check it out yet?
Well, I guess in 3 words would be eerie, punishing, and odd.
Alright, so how was the recording composing process? Did you face any difficulties?
Being that it was all kind of ad hoc and just on our own, nobody really pushing us to do anything. We took our time, maybe a little bit more time than we should have, but you know, we were all busy. Everybody's in their own other bands. Everybody's got their own lives going on. So the process was slow, but we ultimately came out with something that we really, really thought was the best possible product we could come up with.
Awesome. So what is your favorite track on the album and why?
I would say track 7, The Collective.
Yes.
Just because out of all the songs that made it to the album, that was the first one we wrote.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little bit, it's been progressing. I mean, it's totally different from the first time we wrote it. But it morphed into my favorite song. It used to be my least favorite song to play and to listen to, but now it's my favorite.
Alright, so as I said, you released the album independently. You aren't thinking of signing with a label or working independently is better for you, and why?
Well, we're definitely looking at labels to see what they can do for us. Obviously, there's a kind of wide range of what a label can do and, you know, what different contracts will give you.
Mm-hmm.
The whole doing it yourself is kind of a double-edged sword. You can spend the time to really come up with something that you're happy with, and
Yes.
you know, nobody's pushing you or forcing you to cut corners or do something you don't want to do.
Yes.
But it takes a lot more time and resources and energy, and you know, you have to do all the parts. So it's, you know, it takes more work, but you ultimately come out with something that you're really happy with.
Alright, so will Crator be a studio project, or you guys are planning to tour and play shows?
Well, we booked our first show. It's going to be Hoffest 2017. It's January 14th in Chicopee, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
We may have a show in New York City before that at St. Vitus, but we're trying to work that out. We're gonna play a couple shows and see how it goes. And we have enough enough of a fan base to do some tours, then we'll do some tours.
Awesome. So we are seeing lots of bands launching some campaigns to get some money that will help them out in their future plans. You think this is the best way for an unsigned band to earn the money to keep going and record their albums?
So going through the process of doing this ourselves, I mean, it takes a lot of resources. I thankfully have a pretty decent job that gave me a little bit of disposable income that I could throw at this project. So we did it the right way, and the right way means you got to spend a lot of money. You got to go to a good recording engineer. You got to, send your product out to get produced. You got to spend the money. So I understand the need for it. Not everybody has, disposable income that they can just throw at this, and they're living hand to mouth, and they want to come out with their music. They just don't want it to stay stagnant.
Yes.
That being said, I mean, over the years, the music industry has it's changed drastically. Just ping ponging between, okay, everything's label based, and then people are trying to put their stuff out originally, and now is a little bit of a limbo, I think, about how are bands going to make money in the next 10 years. So I think we'll see some kind of change, hopefully for the better.
Okay, so I think you've already answered this question. I wanted to ask you about your thoughts about the scene nowadays, especially the death metal scene.
Well, I've done a lot of traveling over the past couple of years,
yes.
Over to Europe, around the U.S., Canada. I haven't made it over to Asia yet, but or Russia or South America, yes. Or Africa. But from what I have seen, it's so regional. I mean, you can have, and I'm gonna use New York as an example.
Yes.
I mean, upstate New York versus downstate New York City.
Yes.
Completely different scenes. I mean, you'll have one band that'll play in upstate New York and have, 20 people show up to the show, and you go downstate, same band, we'll have a packed house.
Uh-huh.
So it's really, the fan base is wherever you go, and it depends, what's popular in that region at the time. And I'm happy with the scene as it is now. There was a lull, I think, probably 5 or 10 years ago. But I think it's definitely coming back with a resurgence.
Oh, awesome. So that's it. Anything you would like to add?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me on your show.